Hello, everyone. There's been some recent developments from Stronghold, some updates I think that we should really wrap our heads around because it's an election year, and more importantly, it's understanding the bigger picture. So I'm going to state this from the research that I gathered that I'm providing to you guys here today. In my humble opinion, Stronghold SHX, out of all the tokens and coins out there, could very well be the one that is the most well positioned for ISO 20022 for the November 2025 mandate. I know that's a bold thing to state. Here's why I'm stating that. Now, I own Ripple XRP and some of the other coins and tokens in regards to ISO 222. I'm very bullish on those. But for me, what stands out for Stronghold is how it has prepared itself in the remittance sector. You're going to see some things on why that's important. Stick around to the end of this outline. We're going to connect some things. We're going to outline some things that are very crucial and important for your understanding, whether you're a person that owns Stronghold, whether you're a person that's continuously DCAing into Stronghold SHX, or you're the type of person in which you're brand new and you're wanting to learn a little bit more, or you're on the cusp of getting into it. Whatever the case be, this is not financial advice, it's actual research. Let's jump into the material. Smash the like if you haven't done so already. Let's get into it. So, first thing we're going to start off with, believe it or not, is straight from Stronghold. And here is the pinned announcement. Basically, came 2 days ago, like I said, August 27th. And like it says, proud to support Fairshake. Now, again, you may not even be aware of what this is, but again, we're going to explain why that matters. Full screen this mentions that Fairshake is a bipartisan super PAC, but it's the commitment to adoption. I love this because the concept of adoption is something that just gets mentioned, but I don't know who is truly trying to get us to not just adoption, but mass adoption. Follows up with innovation, expansion of the blockchain economy. And of course, great ones that we hold, Ripple XRP and so on, but to see Ripple mentioned here, Coinbase mentioned here. So there's a blog about it, but before we get into it, we're going to play this key interview from the one and only Tammy Camp. Listen to this for yourself. This is about 1 minute and 9 seconds. We'll come back and get into the outline and why it matters. Here we go.
We're proud and honored to announce our support for Fairshake, a bipartisan super PAC dedicated to promoting the stability, innovation, and growth of the blockchain economy. We believe that Fairshake's mission to support crypto and blockchain innovation, adoption, and expansion in the United States is in direct alignment with Stronghold's commitment to build a more inclusive, stable, and connected global economy. We know that Fairshake is a critical step to advance the future of blockchain, and we stand together with other leaders in the crypto industry, such as ARK Invest, Ripple, Electric Capital Partners, Paradigm, and Coinbase. Fairshake's efforts to establish clear regulatory and legal frameworks to guarantee that the blockchain economy in the United States realizes its full potential. To learn more about Fairshake and its network of supporting companies and leaders who are fueling innovation and responsible regulation for crypto, click the link below.
So yes, we want to see bipartisan leaders, again, reach across party lines and get real regulation passed, but it's of course done through the legislatures, as always has been, and so on. We don't want an instance where, we have a newly elected president and then under 2 years or whatever the case be, you have a shift that comes through where one party dominates and then you don't get progress. You are just stuck in the mud hoping that you can get a little bit more votes and get things passed. And I understand that's been the timeless classic in regards to how that works. But when you see statements about bipartisan effort, that's where it's at. All right. So Fairshake, okay? Because I don't want to make this too political. Why are they such a big deal? Well, I'm going to take you over to a little bit more about them. Getting into more of this material, it goes on to mention that this is a critical step. How so? Here's the reference, of course, from Stronghold. And like it says, the real reason they're all in on Fairshake. Bottom line is, they want to see a more inclusive and stable global economy. We all do, right? We absolutely all do. But how does that realistically happen compared to just saying it because it sounds cool? Fairshake, if you weren't aware of it, is a federal independent expenditure only committee registered with the Federal Election Commission. I like these statements. It says it supports candidates who are committed to establishing the United States as the central hub for cryptocurrency and blockchain innovation. The point is this, guys. This is what you want to see. So many times we see examples in the past of, oh, we need regulations because once that happens, everything's going to take off. True. I would agree with that. But are you the type of organization that you're putting up? Or is it just time to shut up because you sound like everybody else who isn't accomplishing the common goal that we all want to see? Now, for most of us, we are led to believe that the United States is so far behind. But when you see statements like this, maybe they're not far behind. Maybe they're just sitting back realizing that they will always be part of that bigger picture. And it's how, let's face it, mainstream media wants to paint that. And I don't mean that from the perspective of influencers and other content creators and so on. I mean that from the perspective of literally the narrative that has been shared for a good 4 years plus, right? But realistically speaking, we need to get proper regulations because it doesn't matter if you're a fan of Stronghold or you're the type of person that maybe you only hold Ripple XRP or Stellar XLM and some of these other ones, or maybe you don't even hold an ISO coin or token. I think for the most part, we could all get behind the whole notion that we want to see regulations be passed that will embrace, encapsulate these technologies moving forward. By having something bipartisan, that's where it's at. But this company, Fairshake, we have to analyze this a little bit more. Why does that matter? Is it a nothing burger? I don't think so. All right, I'm going to get more into this. Let's full screen it just a little bit more. Goes on to mention that they realize, if anything, it's their mission, they as in Fairshake, to provide blockchain innovators the ability to develop their networks under a clear regulatory and legal framework. All right, how so? Well, of course, this opens up another thing. Because what happens is it takes you to the website. And, right from the website, you have two options, basically, to donate with fiat, like, for, the traditional method through a credit card, or donate via crypto or wire. All right, interesting. As you get further down into it, it talks about how they're committed to securing the United States as a home to innovators, building the next generation of internet. We always talk about Web3. That would make sense. But you got to be able to provide the innovators the ability to develop their networks under a clear regulatory and legal framework. Like it says, it's vital to the broader, open blockchain economy to grow its full potential. Again, full potential, not just some of it, not just the concept that we've been talking about for many years now, but it's the United States. All right, so this is cool, and I think it's worth pointing out. The other thing I want to get into is where it talks about a little bit more about this, and again, this is from the same citation from earlier, you're wanting to follow along and nerd it out a little bit more, go to stronghold.co, and the article is called "The Real Reason Stronghold is All In on Fairshake." But let's fast forward to this part, because they mention blockchain needs clear regulatory and legal frameworks. Absolutely, you already know this. I don't need to preach to the choir about this, right? I think for the most part, any of us that have been following this understand that we need the success and mainstream adoption of these distributed ledger technologies and so on. But it won't happen overnight. And if anything, it's recognizing that until we get to the point where things aren't volatile, we're not going to get the proper regulations that we need. So, can anything realistically happen, and especially in an election year? Well, possibly, but we need at least something to kind of get things going and, again, reach across party aisles. How so? Well, it's to establish standards. And I cover quant all the time, so Gilbert Verdin and Quant Network have really done a good job with the ISO TC307 standard. But again, this is Stronghold, and you got to keep in mind they do fall under that blanket of, for example, Stellar. But these standards are applicable when it comes to understanding interoperability, transparency, and accountability in trust, by increasing trust in blockchain-based systems. Is there legal certainty for crypto companies? Well, absolutely. They reference, as in what you saw from both Stronghold and Fairshake, that legal certainty builds confidence, encourages investment, and allows companies to dedicate more resources to developing new technologies and solutions. Now, with that said, people have made the argument that this is why you see the influx of possibly more ETFs coming, not just, for example, Bitcoin. Because what? Getting proper channels going on in regards to regulatory compliance will open the floodgates when it comes to new money coming in, because there won't be so much uncertainty. Is there guidelines for all this? Well, of course. But this statement about companies looking to scale their services and operations to new markets, well, I would agree with this. These frameworks are essential. They reference interoperability. God, I would hope so at this point. But this statement about promoting growth through bipartisan support is where it's always going to be at for me. And again, I really try not to get into the political weeds of things, because it's really, divisive. But this is them, as in Stronghold, referencing it, and I think it is important to reference because it is a election year. So the talk of bipartisan support, are they really going to do it? Well, it seems like it's a strong possibility, but this statement of engaging with policymakers from both sides of the aisle, like I said earlier, definitely makes you at least want to root for the notion of it. Because again, don't necessarily just want a president to enter into office and then, another election in a couple years for example, Congress, and then having a radical shift. You know how the pendulum works, you guys. How many times have we seen this over the years? It sways in one extreme to the other, literally every 2 years. Rarely do you get where it's, the executive branch, and then also the legislative branch, where it's just, one party dominance. All right. So we do need to have, the concept of unilateral bipartisan efforts. You may get tired of hearing that, but we have to have that. All right. So back to what Tammy Camp was mentioning. There is leaders that are part of this, and they have pledged their support to Fairshake, and I think that's crucial. ARK Invest, Winklevoss twins, Andreessen Horowitz, some big names here. Of course, Ripple, and of course, even Coinbase. There's this article from Brian Armstrong, and I'm going to get in that in a minute. So we understand that this is a big deal, but do I have more in regards to this reference from Politico? Well, I do, and this is why I want to share it with you. So it's the splitting of the tension, or I should say, this all splits the underscoring of growing tension within the crypto industry. This was published not that long ago from Politico, but it mentions that the crypto industry, Republicans and Democrats, will still fight to own the issue with tens of millions of dollars in play going into the November election. True. This guy, who's Conway, states there's an elephant in the room. And there's two factions, moderate faction and a Donald Trump faction. Again, I'm not wanting to make this divisive, but this particular individual met with both Democratic lawmakers alongside Coinbase's Brian Armstrong and, of course, his venture capital firm SV Angel, who previously invested in Coinbase, to discuss how we can get, for example, things like Fairshake to have both Republicans and Democrats to basically meet eye to eye, or try to get some who might not see things eye to eye to maybe hop on board for embracing technology, right? So there's this reference, and I didn't want to get fully into that because that's a deep dive in itself, but again, more and more of this stuff being posted in the background that a lot of people aren't aware of. All right, another citation. This one's from Axios. This is about the crypto community, like it says, continues to advance initiatives to promote stability, tech innovation, and growth of the blockchain economy. But in the United States, we need to see that, right? So positioning it as a hub, as in the United States, for blockchain tech development and adoption. Again, is the United States sitting at the forefront? May not seem like it is, but maybe they're just taking kind of like a backseat approach, kind of waiting for the air to clear, right? Before they get all gung-ho into the whole thing. Because say what you want, once that happens, especially when it comes to the United States, it should be off to the races when it comes to these assets that we accumulated, well into the depths of crypto winter, 2022, 2023, and so on. So I agree with this statement. We have to zoom out. How many times have you guys heard this statement? When in doubt, zoom out. But cryptocurrency has become a partisan issue. It has been for the longest time. So when you see these statements about how this group will make sure these Democratic candidates will choose between being for something more than 50 million Americans own for Gary, as in like which ones are they in alignment with, you got to keep in mind there's people from the other side who may not very well vote for people that you agree with, but a lot of these people also hold the coins and tokens that we also hold. And I like this statement as well, and that is the bottom line: if you like the oil and gas lobby or the banking lobby, I mean, they are spending, I don't know, in the order of 100 million a year, according to the Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong. And of course, he's a backer of this particular super PAC. But he mentioned this a while back, as of last September. But again, more of this update. Money moves the needle, better or for worse. Or how about this? Money moves the needle, especially when it comes to investments in people's future nest egg. This new nest egg when it comes to cryptocurrency, blockchain, distributed ledger technologies. All right, here's a reference to Brian Armstrong real quick from Bloomberg. Coinbase gave another $25 million to crypto super PAC, which was Fairshake. So these statements you're seeing from basically Stronghold, they're all valid. It's not, a biased point of view because they're behind it. No, they're pointing out that they're behind it for a reason. And again, it's because the super PAC, as in Fairshake, focuses on electing pro-crypto candidates. I mean, my God, we need somebody to represent us, whether you are a Democrat, whether you are a Republican, or whether you are a registered independent like myself, okay? So I want to get more into this, And I want to take you over to this, and this doesn't have wording on it in regards to the video, so I'm not going to really play the video. But I do agree with crypto banker SHX. Shout out to him. He says he's always said it. Stronghold is a new type of super bank. Now, I cover other projects like LCX and so on, and I feel as though that LCX is on their way to becoming a blockchain bank. But what about SHX? And especially when it comes to ISO20022. So on August 28th, 222 labs had an update in regards to a prep guide. And when we get more into the outline, you're going to hear specifically from me about why I still feel so incredibly bullish about Stronghold moving forward, because, again, that alignment for that preparation of that mandate. That is not me stating that I'm only bullish on Stronghold and not Ripple and, Stellar and some of the other ones. Not true at all. But remittances definitely stand out when it comes to Stronghold, and of course automated clearinghouse connections and so on. We talked about Notcha, I don't know, 3-4 times in the past. Again, it's the ones that are leading the charge, or the ones that don't get mentioned enough, but when you look into the underlying tech or the underlying connections that they have, it's like, wow, maybe they are really leading the charge. And again, look at the market cap of Stronghold compared to some of the other bigger projects. You come to the conclusion that this is a sleeping giant in itself. You guys call it gems, call it whatever you want. But again, the statements, and it's not just the statements, it's what we look into, the bigger picture of things. So remittance information, intermediary institutions for end-to-end transaction flows. Again, I talk about Jasmine a lot. I talk about Japan a lot when it comes to data free flow with trust, DFFT. I like the statements of seeing end transaction flows because it tells me data free flow with trust. Is America going to be part of that solution? Now, next part I want to get into is why, again, this is all important. So, it's like that statement that you saw from 222 labs, basically, right? Well, could it very well align migration timelines like they mentioned to MT and even MX message conversation? Because when you hear those statements, basically speaking, it's like, that's Swift. Swift is been beating that drum since the 70s, right? How do we take this innovation and take it to the next level? What's really significant moving forward, and especially if you're a Stronghold investor or a holder like myself? Well, I feel as though this is really significant. I want to get into roughly 4 different key things from my notes that I gathered. And that is this. Stronghold being able to have a prep guide, if you will, and preparing for that mandate. And again, I'm going to show you reference from Swift. So while it may seem theoretical to plan for implementation, in reality it's not. And I'm actually going to show you real references that's going to back that up. So by working closely with partner banks and clients, Stronghold can basically do the following. And that is this. Number one, ensure interoperability, right? Yes, when I mention interoperability, people think of quant immediately, but hear me out. Aligning migration timelines, of course, as we know with partner banks, definitely is going to ensure that both parties are ready to exchange, of course, ISO20022 messages in themselves, at the same time preventing like disruption of, payment flows or, data flow, but with trust. All right, that sounds great. But can we get, for example, more than just a test of real world scenarios? We can have test nets all day, but it's, getting to that mandate of mainnet. Well, you can respect that we have seen tests in the past in regards to all this technology, but testing new payment scenarios using, of course, MX messages in themselves definitely helps identify potential issues and challenges that may arise in actual transactions. That's the whole point of beta testing, whether it's video games or, in this case, the financial sector. You have to prepare for scenarios involving extended remittance information and intermediary institutions, which, as we know, are common in cross-border payments. Is this why they spent so many years preparing for the mandate instead of just rolling it all out 1 year? Could very well be. But say what you want, it was the rollouts, right? So there's rollouts and it comes in different phases, but it's validating functionality. And what I mean by that, what I mean by just that in itself is validating things from test nets going to mainnets and so on, because again, understanding that it's not just scalability issues, it's literally working out the bugs in the process. Okay, so testing new payment scenarios validates the functionality, of course, of Stronghold, and we've seen that. But it's their systems and it's the processing of handling ISO20022 messages in themselves. Believe it or not, if you're not aware of it, it ensures in itself that the migration of all this is successful and that the new standard meets the needs of course, the business. But more importantly, like business as in banks and other remittance organizations moving forward. Will this all like address, for example, the concerns of various clients in the testing process? Well, yeah. But Stronghold SHX in itself can address concerns or questions that they have, of course, about the migration, but it definitely helps build trust in regards to the new standard because they've taken the liberty of making sure that they are in alignment with the future mandate. So there's going to be 4 more things I want to get into, and that is moving forward, what should Stronghold focus on? Or what have they already focused on? Well, from what I gathered, it's building strong partnerships. Hear me out. Strengthening relationships, as we know, with partner banks and clients is, for example, essential for smooth migration, but the migration towards a mandate. All right. So we would see open communication, and we are, in regards to collaborative effort, in regards to Stronghold to address challenges and ensure a successful transition to this mandate of ISO 20022. But say what you want, the rigorous testing of a new payment scenario is definitely crucial to identify and resolve, of course, potential issues before this whole migration goes live. I mean, just because ISO 20022 went live March of 2023, well, that was big in itself as far as a milestone, but that just meant it went live. That does not mean in any way, shape, or form that you're at mass adoption. But a mandate can get you to mass adoption, could it not? Absolutely. All right. In the process of getting to that, will Stronghold provide support? I think they will, because they provide a clear and timely communication consistently, if you look more into it, with their clients about migration processes, and that also includes the expected timeline. And of course, the benefits are part of it. Say what you want, whether it's Sean Bennett, Tammy Camp, and so on, you can appreciate that they have consistently shared benefits. And that is also what researchers share and other people that cover, whether it's on X through research and posts and articles, it's the benefits of what this remittance platform provides towards the bigger picture of things. But by offering training and support, they will be able, of course, to help clients adapt, of course, to this new standard. What standard? Again, ISO 20022 standards. So after the migration is complete, everybody's wondering what's going to happen. Well, I don't have a magic, crystal ball, but I can appreciate that Stronghold will continue to monitor the performance, of course, of ISO 20022 and that messaging standard and make adjustments, of course, as needed. But you better believe that this would include addressing many issues, or any issues for that matter, that may arise, exploring opportunities to further leverage the benefits, of course, of the new standard. Say what you want, by completing this quote-unquote step 4 that was referenced from 222 Labs, it is in fact a prep guide. And that Stronghold in itself would position itself as a leader, you heard me right, in the payments industry, offering more efficient, transparent, and reliable payment services to all clients. That is a win, whether people don't recognize Stronghold or not. All right, I'm going to jump over to this. And basically speaking, you know, this was something that was referenced recently to a proposal that, of course, was put to a vote, and that is in regards to MCA origination fee burn. Now, every time somebody sees talk about burns, they think it's a big deal and so on. But this is really something that was been there, done that. But I want to point out just a couple things before we move forward. And that is the proposal whether a portion of the origination fee should be burned instead of paid to contributors. Now, this is something that was basically like a been there, done that moment, because MCA origination fee basically have these snapshots in regards to there was a 70% origination fee that would be burned or should be burned to the remaining 30 paid to pool contributors. And of course, you know, all this basically, started back on Christmas Eve of last year. And the results were published, of course, on January 16th of this year. The implementation happened the first quarter of this year. And this is why you saw some, big pumps during that time. Some people were wondering about that. And of course, it was completed on April 1st of this year. But again, the burning, right? So it was these origination fees, and it was the burning to involve a payment of SHX back to the issuing account, of course, on the ledger. And I love the idea that the results of those tokens were to be destroyed forever, inaccessible, reducing SHX total supply. So many people still point out, whether it's on CMC, CoinGecko, and other sites, they're like, there's not enough in circulation, and they're feeling as though that, Stronghold can just dump on us at any point. Again, keep in mind, you can appreciate that this thing is deflationary. So I wanted to point out some of those things before we move forward. All right. The other thing I want to get into is understanding a little bit more about, like after this passed and how that proportion would be calculated. So the results was that 210,227,988 voting power participated in the proposal. But at the end of the day, would we see, for example, this whole thing really, I guess you could say, take off? Because one of the questions was, if the proposal to burn a portion of the origination fee was passed, what proportion of the fee should be burned? And of course, what it says is that the weighted average burn proportion was 69.73%. It round to the nearest 5%, and the results is a 70% proportion. The outcome was 70% and 70% of the origination fee, not would be burned, but should be burned, with the remaining 30% to be paid to the pool contributors. So, at the end of the day, this was implemented from what I gathered. It was completed. But basically, you have to understand that it makes it deflationary. And these are some of the things we all want to see, because it's going to make things more scarce. And, from a token that has a bigger supply compared to some other projects, that's a win, right? So another thing I want to gather for you guys is this, and that is the summary of all this. You got to keep in mind, having deflationary mechanisms in place and incentive structure in regards to like Stronghold will contribute to the long-term sustainability and health, of course, of Stronghold's ecosystem, because it's token value. At the end of the day, we always want to talk about token value. So the reduction in supply and increased demand would potentially lead to a higher token value. I mean, duh, right? We all want to root for that. And of course, that would benefit all of us. In summary, that MCA burn, if you weren't aware of it, even though it was a proposal, was significant in regards to the developments for, of course, Stronghold moving forward. But it definitely introduced the whole concept, like other cryptocurrencies have, of a deflationary mechanism. And let's face it, that's incentives for contributors, and also supports the overall health, of course, of the Stronghold ecosystem. Now, I want to take you over to here, and you're going to see this lady who you're familiar with. I don't even need to name her, all right? But basically speaking, this was posted August 20th And I love it. It says, can you actually buy things with crypto? Well, we're trying to have, you know, regulations passed before we can have all this stuff being bought, right? Not just for cross-border payments and so on, but we want to see this go mainstream. So let's get straight to the point, like she points out, and let's go ahead and play it. This is a crucial video for your understanding, and then we'll come back and show you the last part, and that is straight from Swift and why it's important. Here we go.
Let's get straight to it. Can you actually buy things with crypto? The answer is yes. In this video, we're going to explain why we aren't buying more things with crypto, why we should be buying more things with crypto, and what's it gonna take for crypto to become a more accepted form of currency. First, why isn't crypto the main form of payment today? Here are a few reasons why. One reason crypto isn't the main form of payment yet is volatility. The value of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum are in constant flux. This constant fluctuation makes it difficult to consistently apply the value of a cryptocurrency to a good or service. For example, imagine today you go to a coffee shop to buy a coffee for $5 worth of Bitcoin. Then the next day, that same Bitcoin you bought the coffee with is worth $4 or $6. This change in value makes it hard for businesses and consumers to accurately predict their costs and profits. In addition to volatility, scalability presents another challenge. Most blockchain networks can only handle a limited number of transactions per second. This lack of processing power stands in the way of crypto's ability to support the high transaction volumes required for everyday use. And obviously, regulation is yet another challenge. Governments around the world are still figuring out how to regulate cryptocurrencies, which, of course, creates uncertainty both for businesses and us, the consumers. Without clear regulations in place, businesses still consider it too much of a risk to accept crypto as a viable form of payment. This risk is further complicated by the fact that crypto sales are subject to the same capital gains taxes as other assets that are divested. Every sale of crypto to purchase goods or services is a taxable event and results in a reportable gain or loss at the applicable capital gains rate. So, taking these tax consequences into account can raise the overall cost of goods and services purchased. This, along with the crypto's volatility, makes the true cost when you pay with crypto potentially difficult to calculate at the time of purchase. And last of all, a key roadblock in cryptocurrency's path to mass adoption: usability. While crypto enthusiasts are already using digital wallets and managing private keys on a daily basis, the average person still does not fully understand these concepts and may find the code and process of acquiring, managing, and using cryptocurrency intimidating. When crypto becomes easier to use by a larger audience, it will add a lot of opportunities and promising alternatives to traditional payment methods. So, why are some businesses starting to adopt crypto despite these challenges? Why should we be buying more things with crypto? Here's why. Lower transaction fees. A credit card company charges merchants a fee of 2 to 3% per transaction. Crypto transactions, on the other hand, can be much cheaper. Despite the value fluctuations, for businesses with slim margins, it makes sense to take advantage of the savings from crypto's lower transaction fees. Crypto can attract a new type of customer. Businesses that accept crypto appeal to a growing audience of tech-savvy customers. Early adopters of crypto are passionate about the technology and prefer to support businesses that accept it. Crypto has the potential to significantly improve our systems of payment, and accepting it as a form of payment definitely helps companies tap into a new and growing market segment. We also live in a global economy where international payments are the norm. Traditional cross-border transactions can take days and incur high fees. With crypto, these transactions can be completed in minutes and at a fraction of the cost, making it an attractive option for global businesses. Last of all, crypto promotes financial inclusion. Cryptocurrencies offer a way for people to participate in the global economy in parts of the world that lack a stable banking infrastructure. By accepting crypto, businesses can reach customers who otherwise wouldn't have access to their products or services and grow more effectively and efficiently on a global scale. Now, the real question. Will crypto ever become the main currency we use to buy things? It's hard to say, But here are the reasons to say it will. Technological advancements are accelerating. Blockchain networks are already working to solve issues like scalability and transaction speed to become more established, viable, and sustainable for everyday use. Projects like Ethereum's The Merge and the Lightning Network are examples of crypto working to solve these problems. Clarity about regulations will also play a significant role. With clear and consistent regulations, businesses can more confidently put plans in place to mitigate and reduce the risk they associate with crypto and adopt it as a viable payment method. There's already efforts currently underway to regulate crypto, such as the SEC's recent regulation by enforcement strategy, but there's still a long way to go. The question of whether or not the mainstream will adopt crypto is still open. But as more businesses and consumers become aware of and get comfortable with crypto, its legitimacy as a form of payment will only increase. This awareness is now being accelerated as more notable companies like Microsoft, AT&T, and Wikipedia embrace crypto as a viable payment option, and more crypto ads are aired during high-profile sport events and award shows. But how can crypto move from mainstream awareness to mainstream adoption? Stablecoins are a less volatile form of cryptocurrency that can bridge the gap between cryptocurrency and the real-world goods and services. Because they're pegged to stable assets like the US dollar, stablecoin can make it easier for businesses and consumers to transact in crypto without worrying about price fluctuations. So, can you actually buy things with crypto? Of course you can. You just need to be aware of the challenges and limitations. Some industries are starting to adopt crypto for its benefits, and widespread use is definitely still a work in progress. However, knowing how fast the technology is advancing, understanding the current work towards clear and consistent regulations, and a growing mainstream awareness of the benefits, there's plenty of reasons to conclude that crypto will someday be the dominant way we purchase goods and services. So, what are your thoughts? What do you think will take for crypto to be the main form of currency? What are some of the benefits or some of the challenges? Let's keep this conversation going in the comments below.
Okay. Great example, right? I mean, I pretty much agree with everything she stated for the most part, other than Bitcoin Lightning Network. Don't agree with that, but that's okay. Moving on, let's get into the last key part. Maybe, if anything, the moment you've been waiting for, and that is reference straight from Swift. Why is this important? Let's jump into it. So, I've gone ahead and fast forwarded to this key part because we don't want to do a 3-hour deep dive, right? It's getting kind of more into it than usual, but that's okay. Some of you guys like the deep dives. Some of you guys just want a 15-minute version, but again, there's the pause button. You can always come back to it later. But basically, look what it says. This is from Swift.com, and that is in regards to ISO20022 bytes adoption and how to prepare. Again, prepare. So back to the reference at the very beginning of the outline in regards to preparing. Swift, like it says, closely monitors the level of community awareness, and they're very pleased to see continuous progress and, of course, momentum. So community awareness. Interesting. They will continue to actively engage through webinars, national member groups, and user groups, and look forward to meeting your engagement and feedback. But here's some of the aha moments for you. They had a survey a while back that stated that more than 200 payment market practice groups, which is called PMPG participants from around the world, shows over 78% of respondents, yep, you heard that right, plan to be ready for ISO 20022 with new elements and structures not available in MT by 2025. Again, not available in MT. The shift of going towards this mandate. So 78%, and for Stronghold to be already part of that. So for one, Stronghold's part of that 78%. And number two, understand that they have done what? Literally proclaimed to the world how they are preparing for all this. All right. That's worth pointing out. Okay. Do I have more? I do. It references some of this stuff. It says, by when do you expect to start originating cross-border transactions in full ISO20022 using elements and structures not available, of course, in the MT messaging standard? Well, you see some of this, but again, look at the shift. Does it reference 2025? It does. And at that time that this was posted, and again, this is a while back, originally that source was October 2020, you only saw 8% that was ready to go by 2025. Okay, now we see, for example, that 78% response plan to be ready. Okay, that was definitely worth pointing out. Do I have anything more? I definitely do. Check this out as well. Let's jump over to something a little bit more recent. Again, standards, June 6, 2024, literally D-Day, okay? With 18 months to go until the end of the coexistence period, the daily average number of CBPR plus messages exchanged now exceeds 1 million. Now think about that for a second, okay? When you see statements about that, CB as in cross-border, payment, remittances. So exceeds 1 million. Following the steady progress of its March 2024 meeting, the SWIFT board reconfirmed the community's commitment. Again, this is not me stating it, it's them stating it. To November 2025 as the end of the MT ISO 20022 cross-border coexistence period. There will not be a coexistence period anymore, you guys. Understand supply and demand forces kicking in full-fledged when this mandate happens. And what's the other thing? It emphasizes the priority that should be given to instruction messages to ensure operational continuity and ongoing interoperability. Okay? Wow. So, is there anything else? Well, it says ISO 20022 cross-border instructions is necessary to enable the end interoperability between financial institutions and, of course, even the payments market infrastructures, PMIs. For compliance reasons, it's important to ensure that data, particularly related to payment parties, is not lost or truncated along the end-to-end. And I've covered that numerous times. So, again, if you're not understanding the bigger picture, understand at least this. Goes on to mention the significance of going from MT to ISO 20022 is because with the old standard, you cannot guarantee if a transaction originates in ISO 20022 is then converted to a less rich MT standard as much or as part of its cross-border journey. Again, truncation. I mean, say what you want. If a log file gets too big, right, it will truncate. Or how about transferring it from one language to a character system, right? I always use that reference of, the Greek, like alpha, beta, kappa, if you will, their language, and then taking that to like, Korean, going from somewhat of an alphabet to what? Characters. Messages will get truncated and delays in payments will happen. And that's where we get that reference of time is money. All right. This other statement. Following the strong feedback from national member groups and the core payments working group that we should enable members to focus on instructions rather than FIN-MT message types in the scopes of migration, including reporting statements, It will not be withdrawn from the FIN service immediately in November 2025, but these message types are deprecated, meaning that they are no longer maintained by SWIFT. Think about that. Think about not maintained by SWIFT. All right, there's more. Distinctives will be introduced at a later date. So, for example, financial institutions are strongly advised to switch to the ISO20022 equivalents as soon as possible. If that's not a call to action, I don't know what is. And we have talked about this in regards to Gilbert Verdian of Quant doing that call to action at Lisbon, Portugal with EBA Day 2024, right? That was about roughly a month or two ago. That was a call to action. There's a reason why that's a call to action, because again, that is what? It is understanding that they are going to orchestrate it. They are complementing ISO 222. And again, it's not Quant outline, but you might want to watch some of those deep dives in regards to that. All right. 3 last key things that's important. Okay. So I talked about CBPRs. And if anything, I'm going to give it a little bit more elaboration on it. I know I went the distance in this. Maybe some of you guys in Stronghold are not used to me doing real long deep dives in regards to this, but I do feel as though it's important. Again, anybody can just hit the pause button and come back. So working groups, think about this with CBPR. Payment experts whose mission is to create global ISO 222 market practice and implementation. Again, when we talk about the experts, what about the ones that are trying to get unilateral, bipartisan, people elected that will get things passed to reach the goal, the big goal of regulation? This aged well, okay? So they have guidelines for common rollout, guidelines for implementation of ISO 222, of course, by banks. And more importantly, is understanding how we accomplish some of these things. All right, here's another reference. And this comes from Structured Remittance Information. It's the final update from PMPG, Payments Market Practice Group. If you're wondering where this PDF came from, I fast forwarded to page 3536. Implementation of the structured remittance. Think about it. Does Stronghold not stand out when it comes to remittances? They absolutely do. But look what it says. It is possible to provide structured remittances for domestic payments. Remember how we talked about the United States, where the financial market infrastructure, FMI, is supporting it. CBPR plus rules state the following, and look at this for yourself. Tune in just in case this has gone past your head at this moment. Use of structured remittance must be bilaterally or multilaterally agreed. There is your boil it, mash it, stick it in a stew moment, because it's like, interesting to see the recent news that came out, right? And again, anybody could go look this up for themselves. Finally, moving on to this part. PR Newswire. I cited them numerous times. Fairshake, because that was mentioned at the beginning outline, and its affiliates plan to support, like it says, pro-crypto candidates in both U.S. House and U.S. Senate on both sides of the aisle. And again, reference to the past, December 18, 2023. This aged very, very well as well. So I give you guys more than enough resources for your understanding that I personally feel that Stronghold SHX has done the planning, they've done the prep, and if anything, you can see how they are embracing those that are going to make real change. Not just saying, oh, this is something that we believe we can do. No, it's teaming up with the ones that are really putting it to motion. So there's the update. I know it's an extensive deep dive, but it's been roughly about a month or more since I've done a Stronghold video. If anything, I want to deliver it and pound it home, my conviction on why I feel as though that Stronghold is very slept on, and it's a gem when it comes to the ISOs. So if you appreciate the content, and if you're new, hopefully earn your subscription, smash the like on your way out. If you need something for self-custody and so on, check out the Decent Wallet. Link is in the description. It does help the channel, and it is the one that I personally use. And if anything, a lot easier to use compared to a Ledger. You don't do custom folders and all that stuff. So you'll see a little quick advertisement. But yeah, glad to bring it to you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. Say goodbye to complicated setups and hello to Decent Wallet, the hassle-free solution to your digital currency needs. With just a few taps, you can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent Wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.